Okay, we'll just start now, and so welcome to the session of HDI in terms of looking at how to attain business excellence for technical support centers, and what are various certifications, and how HDI can really help organizations to attain this kind of certifications. Also, we will see some of the approaches towards attaining business excellence through a framework of HDI, which is known as HDI Support Center Certification, and and look at certain journeys that an organization has taken in particular to drive a lot of value for the technical support desk. Objective of this session is to really look at how can a technical support center per se rise from being only a cost center to a profit center kind of an entity. So that's the key objective. My name is David P. Isaac, and I am working with QAI as a consulting partner and practice head for the BPI and process innovation piece. And so our session would typically last for around 60 minutes or so. And during the session itself, wherever you have any questions, please do write up onto the chat session window, and I will respond to it also. I have kept your microphones on mute so that there is no disturbance per se, and but then we can depending on the need, we can then activate it, and we can actually have a call. So we can hear you speak also per se. So let us just begin with our session for today, and we will I will take you through various journeys and offerings which are there from HDI. So many people have heard about HDI, and many people ask for a support center per se. We have done ITIL Foundation and others, and processes are set into position. How do we what's next? In terms of how do we drive value to our organization or to the clients? And that's the question where really HDI fits in. It starts talking about how do we move up the value chain, and how do we drive value to our clients and customers by demonstrating maturity within certain processes. So processes are standardized and they could follow a certain kind of structure. But is it that it would mean that you would earn money, or you would be profitable, or you will be seen as a business center rather than the cost center in the organization? And how do we go about that journey? So here is where the HDI offering really comes in. And HDI and QAI in particularly we have a collaboration, so that QAI becomes is a partner for delivery of services of HDI in the India APAC region, and we provide certification and trainings for all of these offerings per se that we are speaking of, which would actually enhance your ability to provide a lot of value. So just a brief on what HDI is. HDI founded in 1989, headquartered in Colorado, US, and you will see the objective at that time and even now also is to have a network of or an association of technical support professionals in the industry, so that there is a lot of sharing of best practices, new elements which came in. So initially when it was set up, it was more so with an objective to ensure that whenever services get outsourced, a certain level of maturity would exist in the vendor locations, so that the service is very reliable per se. But now over a period of time, it has moved into more of a network or an association of professionals coming in from different areas, from digitization, artificial intelligence, knowledge-centered support, knowledge management, operations side, from technical support desks from various areas, to share some of the best practices and create some kind of a standard that would become like a beacon to organizations who are working to improve their business processes. And that's where it really comes in. So many people are certified in India also. A lot of certification we have done for HDI at different levels, manager, director, as well as team leader levels for key staff within an organization. So HDI essentially elevates the support center offering. So it gives you a lot of training and offering and other elements. So HDI talks about, it has support center certification, trainings and interventions and consulting areas also. Community is a huge community of over a lakh of people across the world, and they usually have an annual kind of gathering in US wherein a lot of global players in the technical support service center kind of element meet up and share some of the best practices. So that becomes a large kind of forum that is available to people. If you look at how these best practices are really set, so to guide you up here, you see on the top right hand side there is an HDI standard certification committee, which has created a HDI certification standard. So HDI certification standard is like a maturity assessment standard of a business excellence framework that essentially comes in from the Malcolm Baldrige Award criteria. And it also takes in elements of support center maturity model, which got identified, saying that, can we really assess maturity of processes as they are drilled in a technical support center, with the people knowledge and the process knowledge, and they have a maturity model per se, which is to the left here that you see. And to the right are some of the industry best practices that already exist, like COBIT, ITIL, CSI, ISO, and other standards. And it merges these standards to create a framework which is customized. So you have a business excellence framework, which is like a Malcolm Baldrige Award criteria that is customized for the technical support test, which speaks that language. And that standard committee per se meets up every 2 to 3 years to reassess whether there are certain best practices that we need to articulate over a period of time into and share with the audience and share with vendors and share with the client and with the target audience in something that we need to be doing, so that we move up the value chain or we move up the maturity of our processes from the technical support side per se. So any questions still here? So I just gave a brief on what HDI is, and we spoke about the HDI standards committee and how that is getting framed. So if you have any questions, you can type on the chat window or the questions window that you have, and I could immediately respond to it. Okay, great. So you see here that in the standards, to make the people aware or make the organization drive the standard or certain best practices from a business excellence framework, HDI came up with various individual level certification exams that people can take. So you see a lot of training courses and online training and certifications is there at an individual level, which is the orange slab here. So the objective there was to, and is also to encourage people to have certain minimum skill criteria when they are working with teams, or when they are working with their individual teams per se. And then you see here, just below that, you see the support center maturity assessment framework. It starts looking at how do we measure the maturity level. So we saw that there. I'll just share case. I'll just show you the various maturity levels of processes in terms of how do they get assessed. So there is a maturity assessment framework that people can use. There is also a support center standard, support center certification self-evaluation. You see SCC self-evaluation workshops, wherein people, organizations, and you yourself, you yourself can get trained to self-evaluate the maturity levels of the processes within the technical center per se, and that is also very useful. The other part is to look at the certification audit. Is, if you want your support center and service site to get audited and certified, then you can also go in for certification. And then there is HDH support center, entire support center also can get certified. And there are certified auditors and auditor certification accreditation kind of programs. So you have two layers. One is at an individual level, and the other layer is more at a support center kind of level, org level kind of, by which organizations can assess themselves and be evaluated by an independent agency to chalk out their plans for the future, strategy, identify areas of improvement, and slowly work towards addressing those, so that you reach a global level of maturity in your processes, in order to reduce your costs per incident, cost per resolution, improve FTR, do left shifts in terms of movement, get processes which are mature enough, look at people angle per se, and multiple other elements which are coming in. So you see, it's a very holistic kind of a business excellence framework standard which is customized for a technical support center. So the overall challenges that the industry really faces here is how do we align the support center to strategic goals of an organization. It could be in-house or it could be outsourced, but how do we align it? The second is, how do we assess maturity of our processes in a very objective manner? And how do we build competency levels? If you are able to measure, are there certain methods to go ahead with a journey of moving in from level A to level B? And the final one is, how to migrate towards being a profit center instead of a cost center. So you see, these are some of the major areas for you to for where the overall support center really works in and starts focusing. What has HDI to offer? So as I spoke of some time back, it has a lot of certifications, individual trainings, maturity assessment. There are even the latest one is in terms of how to enhance knowledge management and how to manage knowledge in a very scientific sense, because there's a lot of information moving around, and how do we really capture that information and reuse this information so that we improve our customer satisfaction, end user satisfaction, or client satisfaction metrics, and lower our cost and engage with the client really better. So you see, these are multiple assessment frameworks that HDI has to offer per se. So there are many benefits that organizations have seen because of support center certification. So we are talking here now in particular of not an individual, but of a service support desk, maybe consisting of 40 people, sometimes as large as 200 people also, wherein you would have certain individual level trainings, enhancement of knowledge bases as they occur, and they are able to use those kind of knowledge bases to reach a new level of performance. So you see, a lot of organizations have undergone this kind of journey. Even in India, you see We have organizations like Cognizant, Cantor, and others who have centers who are HDI support center certified. In fact, we are talking to some of the other big players also within the country, so that they've shown interest in terms of how to really build this maturity within their processes. And the benefits that they see is, it enhances a lot of productivity and employee retention, looks at data in a very objective manner. There are operational efficiencies improvement that they have seen, improving customer retention and customer satisfaction levels. So that is another area that they have seen a lot of these improvements, which organizations have seen. So these are various benefits that they have seen when they have deployed the overall standard. In the next few minutes, I'll be briefing you on in detail about the framework of the HDI standard, so that you get aware about the business excellence framework. What are those core elements? And if interested, you can actually visit the HDI site, look at the self-evaluation approaches that they have. So they have that on a chargeable basis, or you can get in touch with us and we can guide you in terms of how to do the self-evaluation and get insight in doing. So the next few minutes or so, I'll be briefing you on the approach. But till now, till here, is there any questions that you would want to ask? You can. I request you to just maybe type on the chat session window, and I can really address them as we move ahead. Great. So I will now take you through the HDI standard per se, and we will see how that standard is really arranged. And you see here, you see a lot of, the framework is essentially from the EFQM, the European Foundation for Quality Management Business Excellence Framework. Some part of also is taken from the Malcolm Baldrige Award criteria. And the entire standard is arranged into two key elements. One is the enablers and the results. So enablers essentially are those key critical success areas or key functions or process sets which are necessary for us to be running, so that the output is in order. So you see what is the leading and the lagging kind of indicators in terms of having driving results per se. So the enablers itself are broken up into five core uh, overall categories. And you see here the key categories are in terms of leadership, strategy and policy, people related, resource management. And resources, when you say resources, it is infrastructure resource, people resource, financial resources, training and other elements, and process and procedures as an enabler. And you'll see the standard here talks about greatly about following the ITIL framework or a standardized methodology for deploying certain processes with a certain verbiage. So you'll see the dovetailing of ITIL is essentially happening at the process and procedures area here itself. That's how it is getting driven. And when you have the enablers into position, you see them moving towards the results. So you have people satisfaction results, customer satisfaction results, and the performance results. So these are the three core areas where you see the impact of the business. So it would either lead into people satisfaction or customer satisfaction in the form. So when the people are satisfaction, then you will see results in metrics like attrition level, absenteeism rate, satisfaction levels during the survey. When we talk about customer satisfaction, you could have metrics like repeat sales, complaints per customer, and then customer surveys like NPS or overall customer satisfaction score. And in performance results, the performance results are mainly from operational efficiency, effectiveness, and moving towards financial cost, profitability, cost per incident, cost per ticket, profitability, and others, as a blended kind of an element. So you see, these are the 8 broad categories in which the standard is really arranged in. And further, if you look at these standards, essentially were developed by the subject matter experts, that is the HDI International Certification Standards Committee. So each of them were approved, and periodically every 2 to 3 years there is a review of the criterias or the best practices or standardized practices which need to be followed at different levels of maturity within each of these categories. So in fact, each of these categories are further broken up into further subcategories, and each subcategory is described at 4 levels of maturity per se. So it's a very intricate chain of assessment that can be done either individually or through external support parties to really objectively analyze and evaluate the particular current position of the support desk in terms of business excellence or in terms of process maturity assessment. And that itself gives you a guideline to plan for the future. So if I'm at level 2, then I would be wanting to look at how do I go to level 3 and a level 4 in a very systematic manner. And that's where the standard really comes in. So it reflects a lot of best practices that come from the industry. You'll see ITIL, COBIT, ISO 20000, knowledge center support. So a lot of these standard upgrades are being done on a periodic level to keep it updated with the latest technologies. As I spoke of earlier, you will see all of the 8 categories are further broken down into subcategories which are known as activities. So there are 68 such activities in the entire standard, and each of those activities are enabled into a 4 level of maturity scaling. So 4 levels in enablers and results. So you see on the slide here, there are, if I say enablers, so which is to do with the enabler assessment. So if I have a process, say for carrying out a proper monitoring system per se, which is part of the processes. So you say, is it just started? So is there a process? And then it's just level 1. If it is some progress, that means there has been a process and there has been rolled out across multiple areas and stakeholders are aware. Then it comes to 2, that is some progress. Considerable progress is wide deployment of the process. And 4 is fully optimized. That means this process of identifying key stakeholders and addressing them and others is fully achieved across the organization, across multiple stakeholders. So this is the kind of evaluation that usually gets done. Similarly, in the results section on the right hand side, you see whether you have a metric, and HDI identifies a huge set of metrics that you should be measuring as part of performance measurements. And we look at, is it being measured? That means, is it being currently monitored and tracked? Is there a target set, so which becomes at a level 2? So if I have metrics like incident turnaround time, resolution rate, FTRs, cost per incident or ticket, is that being tracked? Do you have a target that is set for you to measure this with comparison? Are there trend analysis that is done on a periodic level as you move ahead? And is there some kind of considerable are you then the 4th level is whether you are continuously meeting this target that you set. So do you meet it at least 7 months, 6 to 7 months from a month's data, from a year's data per se. So the base requirement of the standard is that organizations to attain a level of maturity at least needs to start looking at monthly trending, and therefore you need to have at least 1 year's data for you to decipher trends in data sets. So that is the key challenge. and monitoring and taking corrective action, and the kappa, the corrective preventive actions on the continuous level. So is that really happening, and is that effective also? So you see here on the slide there are these four levels of maturity assessment which are created, and each one per se at each level for each activity are described in a very objective sense that articulates that certain activities that you could do. It's not very perspective, it's not very prescriptive in a sense. When I say that there has to be, when the requirement is there has to be a annualized plan or a strategy plan or a short-term and long-term plan, whether you follow a Hoshin or a balance scorecard or any other technique to create this is not prescribed as such, but there has to be a methodology that is known and followed and practiced and evaluated over a period of time to really check for effectiveness of the method. Is that method relevant in today's area? Typically all business excellence frameworks, when you are assessing and when you are objectively trying to take up the journey of business excellence, at least for technical support desk and other areas also, follow a technique which is called as ADLI. Is there an approach for a thing to happen? Is there a deployment across multiple segments? Are there learning cycles? L standing for learning. Are there learning cycles? Means do you assess, evaluate, and then learn back, and come back into the cycle again? And is there an integration? That means has this process got integrated along with other processes across the organization and followed as a standardized practice across the organization? And that's the level 4 that we are really talking about, right? So in this subsection I just spoke about the various levels of maturity, the enablers, and the results in terms of how the maturity gets really assessed. Furthermore, we will look at how do we really go and evaluate the the benefits and the evaluations per se. So if there are questions, um, you would have anything, just please type on the chat session window. I'm just activating Ashik. Akaran, I'm sorry, Ashik, you had raised your hand. Is there anything that you wanted to ask in particular, Ashik, in any specific question? Hello. Hello. If there are any questions, please do type on your chat or your questions window, and I will respond to it. Okay. Okay. Great. So we saw till here, we have seen how the HDI standard can help you attain operation business excellence through 8 different categories of our core business processes and assessing them into 4 levels of maturity. And we have got 8 categories which are subdivided into 68 different activities, and each of these activities is further broken up into 4 layers of maturity assessment, and such is the kind of rigor when we are doing the assessment. Of course, there is also what we know as the maturity element. How do we really assess the maturity? When we say a score of 1, 2, 3, and a 4 is what we are assessing at maturity. So HDI standard per se talks about business processes and the support center actually existing in 4 major maturity states. One is being reactive. In a sense, we are more, say for example, we we have a customer complaint or an end user complaint or a client feedback, and that's how we start moving in. If there's a miss in the metric, then we start moving in. So it's more reactive to things. And from there, this is maturity level 1. Maturity level 2 is more proactive. That means we have put systems into position that can either predict, track proactively things going wrong, take corrective actions before any escalations would happen, track trends of metrics, especially if they are very very close to the targeted SLAs, and kick in the corrective actions more proactively per se, is, which is a second maturity level state. But if you look at these two areas are more of tactical in nature, so they are short term, they are day to day, they are more to do with operations, they are more to do with the element of day-to-day operations and the element of cost and efficiencies of short-term time period. Could be a week or could be a month. But then in level 3, it moves in from a tactical stage into a more of a strategic kind of movement. So it moves into a customer-centric kind of behavior, wherein you start looking at, are we focused on our customers or the end users? When I say customers, it's not only the end users, it could be your internal employees, it could be your client, it could be stakeholders from the client side, it could be support teams whom you provide, IT support teams who are involved, it could be escalation teams who help you provide the various resolutions. So they are all our customers. Are we being focused onto those customers, and how do we drive that movement? So it all means in terms of measuring customer satisfaction, client satisfaction, interacting with them, sharing new ideas, knowledge assimilation, things like, we look at in improvement of a left shift, that movements, improving FTR through collaborative movement. Do I entirely automate certain activities which we have been doing in the past, which is more manual in nature and troublesome? Do we get inside some proactive kind of designing so that incident and resolutions do not occur in the very first place, or there is self-healing technology, or there is IVR processing of various requests that really happen? So it's more of focusing on the customer per se. And the fourth level is we now move up the ladder and start talking about how do we be business centric. It's not only just providing a support to a client. It is more so to add value to what the client is trying to achieve. For example, you could be providing an IT support to a banking space kind of thing. So how do we really provide value to the IT of the banking so that it enables them to experience, to give better experience to the customers? So it could be higher speeds of access, databases being arranged in the proper manner, utilization of various servers, automation and taking it to a new technological platform so that ease of accessibility and other things happen. And how do we do that really effectively? So it starts moving in from understanding the client's business, one, and two, it also starts talking about, are you being business centric from an internal perspective? Means, are you speaking the language of finance? Are you doing budgeting? Are you moving into a mode where you are looking at reducing or optimizing cost of servicing, reducing volumes of incidents and tickets as they come? Because that really impacts the overall outflow from the client's perspective, and therefore that becomes very very important. So it now migrates into these four states, from being a reactive element to moving more into a business centric element. And that's where you see, as per the standard, and when you look at the business processes, is where the business starts getting a lot of value from the service provider. And that's where people start looking at the technical support desk not as a cost center which takes in a lot of people and resources and tracking and monitoring kind of system, but more so from an element of driving value to the organization, contributing to the profitability, contributing to higher customer satisfaction of the client. And that is a transformational change. When we say business process transformation, it is this element of transformation that we are looking at. So you see, this kind of movement is really elaborated in the maturity scales. Now, typically, when we look at an audit process, or how does an organization go about achieving this kind of maturity, here is a typical kind of a journey which usually takes around a year and a half or so for you to really take up through. Of course, the 6 to 12 months is more so, creating the base and creating metrics, dashboards, and other entity per se, which is very important, and then it moves ahead into different areas. So you see here, the first 6 to 12 months before the audit is more to do with scoping of your work, pricing, getting into an agreement, putting the measurement system into positioning, tracking of the metrics, standardizing procedures, getting people trained in the HDI element, and people start talking the same language. And that's when people start working towards meeting or improving the metrics or the KPIs that are set for them. So that's the toughest part. Then there is element of submitting some pre-audit material, which is the planning stage here, which is could be last from 1 to 6 months, wherein there are a lot of pre-audit artifacts that need to be shared by the client to HDI for a proper assessment of the site or the scope of work that is there. So HDI auditors would look at these artifacts, and there are standardized artifacts that are required, and then they will basis that the on-site visit and other elements will get planned. So you have an on-site visit typically of around 4 days, wherein a lot of meetings with stakeholders are done, and a lot of data sets on site are visited and analyzed and questioned. So it is not exactly as an audit per se, but it's more of an assessment. That means we aren't looking like an ISO standard, or HDI does not look at it like an ISO standard saying that if you're doing a process, are you actually doing it? And that's not an objective. The objective is to observe and understand from you, and understand what are the key things that you have been doing in your organization that is meaningful, and to assimilate that and look whether that is as a maturity standard, where does it really fit in to identify the elements, and is that really effective, or does it dovetail into a metric that you wanted to achieve as a strategic intent. So this is the objective. But it's not like an ISO audit, which is like a compliance audit, or like check whether is the process there, or is it followed or not. So which is not part of the there's no non-conformity as such that is given in this kind of an assessment or an audit. And there are another 2 to 4 weeks time where all of these audit reports are compiled, assessed, and then provided to the client, and then basis that there is a decision taken by the audit committee, HDI audit committee. There is also another set of evaluators who are there from HDI who would re-evaluate and reassess basis the artifacts and the observations on site, and then score on a particular manner. So this is the broad outline of the entire audit process as you see here. And it's pretty rigorous. It takes around minimum 1.5 year for you to really build in. But you will see in that time period, in this journey itself, you would have seen a lot of metrics being into position, people skill building, identification of metrics, key metrics of finance, of operations, and other elements, which can be easily identified and addressed. And you see a lot of value that people have seen. In fact, a lot of improvement in customer satisfaction, cost per incident, standardizing of the processes. And a very important benefit is people start realizing the interaction of different processes or organizations within each other as such. So you'll see those kind of movements as you see. Okay, just a quick check. Please do let me know if there are any questions here at this stage. I just briefed you about the standard and about the levels of maturity and what do they really stand out for, and a brief roadmap of the certification. Further, in the next 5 to 10 minutes, I will also be now showcasing to you a certain client's journey onto HDI and something that they really saw as benefits for them as they went ahead, because this becomes a very good path forward for technical support desk to build a lot of these competencies in the work that they are doing. So any questions, please do type in the chat session window, and I you will see here that there are a lot of these kind of, I'm sorry, so I'll just quickly take a few slides down here. So if you see here, there is an HDI support center. So we started looking at individual certification. So we have a lot of the site certifications which are there here, and HDI individual certification sites in India. So these are various sites in India who are HDI site certified. Various, and here is a case study for an organization that was that deployed HDI certification, and the HDI deployment across the 3 centers was assessed. So, and they have gone in for the recertification, in fact for Manila and Budapest also, some of their international sites also. And here you would observe that, you know, some of the key demands from the market is, you know, to get into these new technologies, and there's a lot of pressure from the market to adopt knowledge on demand, mobile technologies, customer experience management, anytime support kind of entities. So there's a lot of these demand coming in, and you know, the direction that the organization took was to enhance self-service, adopt CRMs and social enterprise, move into automation and self-heal kind of technologies. Plus, there was also a demand coming in from the stakeholders' perspective, more so from financial element, from reducing cost, improving efficiencies, strategy of self-help, self-healing kind of technologies, and improving processes continuously. And in order to meet both the demands, one coming in from the stakeholder perspective and the other coming in from the business perspective, they went in for the HDI site certification to meet both the demands of the stakeholder and the services and the support center. And how did the HDI certification make it relevant? You will see that HDI helped them to implement some of the best practices across the industry, across the 8 categories. So they could follow some of those and implement best practices. They could guarantee a standard of service to the clients, because clients typically would want to be sure that, you know, the services are managed by an outsourcer in the proper way. So it gave them that confidence level. The self-assessment and the individual assessment done by HDI also helped the organization to look at processes and measure maturity of the processes in operations as they existed, and provided a platform for them to interact with global leaders. So these were some of the relevance or benefits that they saw from the HDI certification per se. Their experience, this client's experience through the certification, so they saw that the objective, well-structured audit process, it was meeting certain requirements and security policies that they had highlighted. A lot of insights onto the industry best practices that they saw. Constructive feedback on improvements was being provided, and there was a detailed assessment of each of the 8 criteria. And if you saw earlier that I spoke of, there are 68 such items. And get them assessed in terms of measuring it, and then the value coming into the various performance improvements. So a lot of the value of enablers to drive performance improvement. So they saw the interaction of enablers with the results, and therefore, you know, they could further accelerate their improvement journey in their path. So here is a comparison between their a large retail chain for whom the certification was undergone. So the improved the benefits that they saw was aligned to how to really align strategy to a volatile environment. That helped them to align. Improved leadership connect with associates to motivate and inspire them. That was a benefit. Process to ideate on innovative solution and tools which could help them to build up. And process and procedures, of course, they were very good. It helped to encourage suggestions from people to add changes into the major processes. Improved perception of management through proactive connects with dissatisfied users. So a lot of interaction on managing client complaints and addressing their issues in a very proactive manner. So that really helped them. And it helped communication and inference of appropriate audiences on the results. So when they start looking at the performance metrics, how do they really align to it. Um, so these were various benefits that the organization saw in terms of deploying the business excellence framework. And I think in a very logical sense, when we talk about standardized processes using ITIL, is not the first step is that, but we need to build on it in terms of leveraging it to drive a lot of value, and that's where the HDI standard and the assessment comes inside to drive that kind of business excellence in terms of movement. What it is not, HDI certification and alignment is not. It is not a one-stop solution to improve your performance quality. It does not enforce any specific framework and system per se. It gives you the freedom to really look at various options that you can really check and assess. So it gives you that kind of freedom. Um, any specific questions at this stage that you would want to ask? Please do let me know. And please do let me know if there are any questions. Okay, great. So we come to the conclusion of our webinar, and thanks for your time. You can connect me on my email ID david.pisaac@qaiglobal.com, and we will also share with you the link of this recorded webinar session so that you can share with some of your colleagues, and you can review it also. And we would be more than happy to receive your suggestions, your questions, and any help that you require in terms of undergoing a journey towards business excellence for your support desk, so that you can take up your support desk to the new level of maturity, level 4 of your performances, and you see a lot of value coming in from really what we really do. So any questions here that you would want to ask, Ashik and others? Okay, great. Okay. So thanks a lot for your time, and I hope that you could gain a certain visibility on a certain approach on how to start looking at operational excellence, business excellence within a technical support desk in particular, and how to go about addressing those. Um, Again, thanks for your time and best wishes to you.